More secrets in the Dwarven Ruins and Trespasser DLC. This one is a little bit more theory-based, but hopefully you'll still find it interesting. So there are these 3 codex entries in the Deep Roads that are easy to miss, that are really fascinating because I think one of them is mistranslated. And I think that possible mistranslation might be a clue. Section 1. Many of these pages are filled with sketches of elven statues matching the ones found in the area, along with notes and what look like attempts to practice Cunlot. Ebost, you all are. Ebadim, they all are. Ebasam, we all are. If Fen'Harel truly has agents working against us, then the Dreadwolf must be laughing at me. The Blight takes my clan, so I go to Kirkwall. Kirkwall goes to ruins, so I flee to the Cune. Now the Kunari bring me down into the lightless depths, and for what? Because the nursery rhymes I remember from childhood make me an expert on ancient elves. These statues are old, better shaped than anything I've seen on the surface. Many of them are for Mythal, though, and Fen'Harel, not in a spot of honor, but guarding, attending. Protector and All-Mother, why are you honored here so far from the light of the sun? And why was the Dreadwolf at your side? Section 2. They say the agents of Fen'Harel caused trouble in the crossroads. I wish I knew. I wish whoever fights in the name of the Old Wolf was around to fight when the Darkspawn took my clan. Mine is not to question. I have chosen the Cune. The Cune will protect me. Rethost, you all protect. Rethadim, they all protect. Rethsam, we all protect. These statues are older than anything I saw in my days with the clan. The area's dwarven, though. What were the ancient elves doing down here? Mining? Where were the dwarves? Easier to have them mine it. Not a trading post. You don't go into a friend's home, knock over their gods, and put up your own. War? I don't remember any legends about our people fighting the dwarves. Though I remember my keeper telling a story about how the dwarves fear the sun because of Elgernon's fire. A metaphor for the elves of Arlathan driving the dwarves underground? The Kunari like metaphors. I should share that. The third one goes, trying to remember that old bedtime song about Mythal. My mother sang it the night before the Darkspawn came for my clan. It's the last time I ever heard her voice. Ir sa tenal, Mythal las ma theneras, Ir sana ema, him solus evenuris, da dergenlin, banal malas elgara, belinaris belinaris. Written beside each elven line is a corresponding phrase, likely a translation. I am empty, filled with nothing. Mythal gives you dreams. It fills you within you, making our leaders proud. My little stones, never yours the sun, forever, forever. Haren said we had lost some of the old words. What if they had changed? Dergenlin from Dergenlen? Little dwarves, never yours the sun? What did Mythal do here? Something's wrong. The lights in the walls are fading. Going to find help. It's not safe without light. Itwa ost, you all fall. Itwa adim, they all fall. Itwa sam, we all fall. First things first, Itwa ost is what Solas says at the end of the DLC.
Ebesit kata, etwa ost.
So we're just introducing more Cunlot so that we're able to translate what he says. This is specifically an old bedtime song. This elf is talking about a lullaby that this elf heard. So there was no reading going on with this, so he heard it with his ears. So that means that this elf doesn't know whether things in this are supposed to be capitalized or not, because there's just no way to know with a lullaby. The elf himself brings up, oh, I don't think that I'm translating this right. So, to me, reading this, it just tells me to go back and, really look at it and try to translate it myself to see if there's anything interesting there. Especially this line, him solus evenuris. Now, Dragon Age Elven is a cipher of English. It usually shares grammatical structure with English, but it's like the words are replaced. Now, I personally get really suspicious when the word solus appears in ancient material. The word solus in Elven means pride. Most of the instances in which pride is mentioned in the ancient Elven texts that you find in the game, each time the word pride could easily be a person. It's not the concept of pride, it's solus.
I was Solas first. Fen'Harel came later. An insult I took as a badge of pride.
I was Solas first. Fen'Harel came later. So he told us there that when we're looking at ancient Arlathan, we're not going to see the word Fen'Harel anywhere. We're going to see the word pride, because he was pride first, and then he was called Fen'Harel after he started to fight the Evanuris. For example, in the Ascension of Gilinan, it says, "On the second day, Gilinan drowned the giants of the sea, except those in deep waters, for they were too well wrought, and pride stopped her hand." And pride is capitalized. You know that that's talking about Solas. That's a proper name. That's not her own pride. That's literally Solas stopped her from killing all the ocean animals, apparently. So Solas is an animal rights activist. And there's all sorts of things in the ancient stories that mention pride in this way. So he's like the almost forgotten member of the pantheon because they erased his name and called him something else. So whenever you come across the word pride in ancient texts, replace the word pride with Solas and see if it makes more sense that way. A lot of the time it does. It's quite interesting that in this codex entry, it mentions pride in the same sentence that it's talking about what was Fen'Harel doing with Mythal. Like, the questions that they raise, I feel like we can answer, at least speculatively. Fen'Harel was not in a spot of honor, but he was guarding and attending Mythal at this point. So he was her attendant, or he was her guard dog, or something like that. So pride was at her side because he wasn't the Dread Wolf at that point. So there's obviously a point where he became a god, and I think that the third codex entry tells us that. This is the interesting part to me. Him solus Evanuris. Making our leaders proud. If you're actually translating that as a cipher of English, if this elf wasn't aware that Solas was supposed to be capitalized, like that's a personal name and not a concept of pride, then this is actually translated making Solas an Evanuris, not making our leaders proud. Rereading it with the proposed retranslation, it says, "I am empty, filled with nothing. Mythal gives you dreams. It fills you, within you, making Solas and Evanuris, my little stones, never yours the sun, forever, forever." This is speculation, but perhaps Mythal fills something with dreams, and doing so makes Solas and Evanuris. There's evidence that the elves went down into the deep roads to fight a great war with the dwarves, and this was the war that he said, after the war ended, generals became respected elders, then kings, and finally gods, the Evanuris. So it was the war with the dwarves that caused the Evanuris to go from being respected leaders to being seen as gods. We're kind of seeing the apotheosis of these characters. This journey to godhood happened in the deep roads, so maybe we can figure out exactly what happened. They're powerful mages, but throughout Inquisition, the question comes up a bunch of times. Like, Morrigan says, what are gods but beings of immense power? One way to become a god is to just become incredibly powerful. When you solve the puzzle in the secret room in Trespasser, you notice that in the mural, the guy has in his hand a round object that has like a symbol of power on it, and the very center of the collapsing titan has the same symbol. So you can kind of speculate. Again, this is not hard evidence. It's a visual interpretation of a mural. But I think most people who know about this kind of assume that this is the same orb that Solas was looking for.
Such things were Foci, said to channel power from our gods. Some were dedicated to specific members of our pantheon.
He said they're dedicated to specific members of our pantheon that only they could use without dying. So they seem to be these rare objects. Because, I mean, if they weren't rare, Solas wouldn't have been so upset at his being broken. He would have just gone to get another one somehow. These are apparently irreplaceable. A lot of people speculate that it's because it's the heart of a titan. So they went down, they mined their bodies for lyrium, and the something else that they mined looked like the heart of the titan, who are transformed into these spheres. Possibly. A codex entry from the Temple of Mythal that you can only translate if you drink from the Well of Sorrows says, "In this place we prepared to hunt the pillars of the earth. Their workers scurry, witless, soulless. This death will be a mercy. We will make the earth blossom with their passing." For one moment there is a vivid image of two overlapping spheres. Unknown flowers bloom inside their centers, then it fades. This matches the codex entry of the special room in Trespasser that praises Mythal for striking down the pillars of the earth and rendering their domain unto the people. And for a moment, the scent of blood fills the air, and there is a vivid image of green vines growing and enveloping a sphere of fire. In Dragon Age 2 in the Black Emporium, you can find a codex entry called the Emergent Compendium that is about a mysterious book that kind of works like Twitter, and the part connected to this reads, "Two shadowed spheres among stars," subtitled, "An eclipse as Fen'Harel stirred." So in ancient Elven, there are a lot of talk of spheres. Another mysterious mention of spheres, or orbs, is in the constellation Thoth, which could be a depiction of a flaming orb. It's also suspicious that when Solas takes Mythal's power, he's suddenly able to turn people into stone, like stone as in the Titans, as in the dwarves. Now, what exactly are these orbs?
That orb Corypheus carries, are you certain it's of elven origin, Solas?
I believe so. Why do you ask?
There are paintings in the Magisterium's archives of men holding similar orbs. They were depictions of a time long before the Magisters, the ancient dreamers perhaps. The texts called those orbs Somnaborium, vessels of dreams. Could they be the same thing?
Perhaps. The humans of ancient times took much from the elves.
You kind of get the picture of an orb that contains dreams in it, somehow magically. When I'm looking at this lullaby, this ancient lullaby about Mythal, filled with nothing, Mythal gives you dreams, it fills you within you. That's very suspicious to me, because we know that each member of the Pantheon has one of these orbs, which Dorian has called an orb of dreams. I can only imagine that they needed to be filled with dreams in some way. This is speculation, but perhaps Mythal, in stealing what is perhaps the heart of the Titans, and transforming them into these vessels of dreams, maybe this is what happened to the dwarves' dreams. Maybe the reason why they don't dream is that the elven gods stole their dreams and filled them in these Somnaborium. And maybe that's what happened? I mean, it could be that dwarves just never had the ability to dream. They were always just connected to the stone and they're not supposed to dream. But it seems like my little stones, never yours the sun, forever, forever. It's almost like she's separating the dwarves from their roots. And you're like, okay.
Dwarves are the severed arm of a once mighty hero, lying in a pool of blood, undirected. Whatever skill at arms it had, gone forever. Although it might twitch to give the appearance of life, it will never dream. Dwarves cannot dream, yet they devise the most fascinating inventions.
Not all ideas come from the Fade.
True, but these designs must be inspired by something.
And the dwarves of Orzammar have never studied lyrium?
Well, if they have, they certainly haven't shared anything up here. Why?
It is the source of all magic, save that which mages bring themselves. Dwarves alone have the ability to mine it safely. I wondered if they had sought to learn more.
There's another possible vague connection between Titans and the Elven gods. In the Chant of Light, it says, "The ninth sacred mountain upon which rests the mortal dust of Our Lady ascended." 9 sacred mountains, 9 elven gods, 9 orbs dedicated to each member of the elven pantheon that they apparently, possibly, gained from the Titans in some way. Also in this Chant of Light verse, it says the 9th sacred mountain was where the dust of Andraste was kept, which was Haven. And we know from the prologue of Inquisition that underneath the Temple of Sacred Ashes is red lyrium again. Red lyrium is blighted Titan's blood. This is all very suspicious to me. Potentially related to this is Cole's mysterious comment in Trespasser.
He broke the dreams to stop the old dreams from waking. The wolf chews its leg off to escape the trap. They made bodies from the earth, and the earth was afraid. It fought back, but they made it forget.
This is just my suspicion at this current time. I think that this torn notebook in the Deep Roads is deliberately saying, I don't know if this is translated right, so you look back at it and say, oh, that's not right. It's deliberately mistranslated and deliberately a lullaby, so you go back and maybe catch this. I could be reading too much into this, but I think that all of the clues are deliberate here. And if not, it's just fun to speculate. This is my suspicion about this particular codex entry in the Deep Roads, so hope you found that interesting. I didn't expect my last video to be watched by more than like a couple hundred people, so the reaction to it has been surprising to me, so I decided to make another one. I have some more videos that I have in mind that I could make. Like, I want to make one about every instance in the games where they talk about singing and songs and like the mysterious songs in the series. I could go through the talk table and actually search it for like the word song and make sure I find every instance in which they talk about songs and really, really get thorough about it. I'd also like to make a video about the Solas temple, the mysterious temple in the Oasis in Inquisition that you have to gather all the shards to open. I'd like to make a video about everything you missed in the last conversation with Solas and Trespasser DLC. I have ideas to make a few different videos, so if any of that sounds interesting, that's what I'll probably be doing. I had a couple of people comment on my voice quality. If you want to buy me a microphone, here's a link to it, but otherwise it's quarantine and I'm just gonna keep using this headset mic. If you have any questions or ideas for things that you'd like to have covered in this kind of thorough way, please leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. Anyway, thank you for listening. Have a good day.